Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Today we're going to be looking at Amalgam Comics. I don't know if you guys know what Amalgam Comics was, but it was a really kooky, bizarre attempt for Marvel and DC. Marvel was almost bankrupt at the time. DC wasn't doing very good. This is after the bust of the 90s, the comic book bust. So in 1996, they decided to suspend all of their comics for 1 month and make this mashup company called Amalgam. You can already tell by the logo, it's like Marvel and DC combined. And they mashed up all their characters, and Marvel did like half of them, and DC did the other half. And these are zany, guys. They're also just the nerdiest things you've ever read. The fun of these is that these guys, some of the guys doing these, like some of these I got rid of a long time ago. Some of them are just crap. But some of these, you could tell the writer was having such a good time doing all this goofy stuff, like nerdy stuff, like, oh, if I mix Doctor Strange and Dr. Fate, what would it be like? And, you know, you get the idea, right? So it was way funner than it could have been, because Marvel and DC at the time were just bereft of good ideas and stuff. Marvel was particularly terrible at that time. And this was actually pretty fun, and they actually got some really good creators on some of these books. So we're going to look at some of these. I believe the first round, which came out in April 96, it was like, I don't know, 10, 12 issues maybe. I got rid of a bunch of them. I bought them all, but then some of them I was just like, no, I can't have it. But some of these, maybe I should get rid of, but I can't, because they're just so nerdily delicious. But then some of them, then again, are just so amazing art and just some really, actually pretty fun writing too. So we're going to start off with Doctor Strange Fate, #1. This is written by Ron Morris, and get this, guys, pencils by Jose Luis Garcia Lopez. As if that's not good enough, inks by Kevin Nowlan. And what an exquisite team up these guys are. Oh my God. This is some of my favorite like mainstream comic superhero art ever. It's just perfect, as you can tell by this cover. He also looks pretty wicked. I gotta say, that looks like a cool character design, even though it pretty much looks like Doctor Strange with just Dr. Fate's bucket on top. But I think it looks pretty cool. So we start off. Now, I forgot to mention, guys, this whole Amalgam Comics project came out of Marvel vs. DC, which was a mini-series that came out right before this, and it was Marvel pitting their characters against DC's. And it doesn't look very good. I never read them. Apparently, there was a character near the end of that mini-series named Access, and Access was like, could jump between worlds. And so during this Marvel DC versus DC miniseries, the two universes smushed together into the Amalgam universe. Now, Access is the only guy in these comics, in this universe, who knows that things aren't right, that this was once two universes, and he's trying to figure out a way to get them back together. So we see him here, beautifully drawn by Lopez and Nowlan. This is just so nice. And he's in a sewer somewhere in the Amalgam universe, whatever their version of Gotham is maybe, or whatever, New York City. And all of a sudden he's attacked by the Abominite, who is a mix of the Abomination and I think the Parasite? Wait. Oh, I'm sorry. There's a DC character I've never heard of called the Hellgramite. And I guess he's a big monster like who looks like that more. But he attacks him. And right when he's about to land the killing blow, Access disappears and pops up on a roof. So this is apparently something Access does. He pops in and out of, he teleports around. So now we see the introduction to our main character, Dr. Strange Fate. I love this page of all these little silent panels as he gets dressed. And there he is in all his glory. This is called The Degrees of Fate. And I already told you the creative team. Oh, God, guys, every page in this is just perfect. I should say colors by Matthew Hollingsworth, who's no slouch. So it looks even better because of that. So instead of Wong, his assistant is a guy named Mix, who's Mr. Mixelplexed. I'm probably saying that wrong. And mixed with a Wong. And he's basically his indentured servant. So Dr. Strange Fate says, summon the three. And I guess these are guys who work for Dr. Strange Fate. There's all these weird echoes to other Marvel and DC characters I'm not even sure if they're aware of. But this almost reminds me of Baron Winters from the old Night Force comic, where almost every story, he'd summon 3 different agents whose skills were perfect for the task at hand, I guess. I don't even know if they meant to do that, but I sensed a little resonance there. So he summons Bruce Banner, the Skulk, who is basically the Hulk and Solomon Grundy. I don't know why they didn't name him Solomon Banner. They'd even try to make his name amalgamated. Frankie Rayner, the Jade Nova. So it's Frankie Ray, Marvel's, that one version of Nova they had, who became a Galactus Herald, and Kyle Rayner. But then it also seems to be Jade from Infinity Inc. And later on, when we see her powers, she kind of looks just like Flame. I think that's her name, from the Justice League Europe. The very green-tinted, fiery superhero. And then we have Wanda Zatara, the White Witch, Scarlet Witch, and Zatanna. And they're summoned, and he basically says, I need you to find this guy Access. And he's more dangerous than Mephistotanus and Baron Wotan included. So throughout these comics, almost every panel, depending on the comic, will have a nerdy reference to some other amalgamated character. So there was Mephistotanus as Mephisto and Satanus, Baron Wotan, Baron Mordo, and Wotan. It's, like I told you guys, this is going to be a very nerdy episode of this on the channel. But I fucking love this shit. I want to make my own Amalgam Comics now. So we see a little character development. Frankie Rainier, the Jade Nova, is very fiery and hot-tempered. She's almost like Guy Gardner. She seems to act like Guy Gardner. White Witch, for some reason, is a complete and utter slut. Like, everything she says is some kind of innuendo or a come-on. And Dr. Strange Fate has to keep, like, saying, cut it out. Cut out that nonsense. You can totally see the Kevin Nowlan inks over the Garcia Lopez pencils very blatantly, especially when he draws women. This is kind of fun. There's all of Dr. Strange Fate's, his mystic objects of magic. We see Thor's hammer. I'm not sure what these other things are. There's some kind of Superman sword, which I think might be from an Elseworlds comic. But I'm getting lost in the weeds here. There's a lot of weeds to get lost in. So he basically, just Mix, zaps them off. God, this art is so nice. So first off, Access is running. And see that little poster, guys? Try to remember that. The next comic we look at, he's going to be in. So some of these comics do tie into each other. Some of them contradict each other, because some were made by Marvel, some were by DC, and I don't think they were sharing notes too carefully. So there'll be duplicate characters and just kind of weird little things that violate the continuity that the others have set up. So first, Access runs into Bruce Banner of the Skulk. And, you know, the Access is like, I'm not coming with you. Get the hell away from me. And he's like, and Bruce Banner says, I didn't want it to be like this, but you pushed me. And look, so it's Hulk and Solomon Grundy. They're the same character, except one's white and one's green. But they do give him purple pants, I guess, as a sign that he's part Hulk. Maybe that's why they named him Bruce Banner, to even the scales. So he runs away from Skulk, runs right into Jade Nova. And look at this, how beautiful that is. The colors with the Kevin Nowlan's luscious inks. So nice. So Skulk comes up, grabs him, throws him into some garbage cans. Jade Nova, basically has the powers of a Green Lantern. She ties him up in chains, and then he zaps out of existence again. Or he teleports. Now he's on a dock, and now he runs into the White Witch. And of course, she totally crawls on top of him and is basically trying to seduce him. And she kisses him, and it knocks him out. I guess she has knockout kisses. So they take access to Dr. Strangefate's mystic manor, and he commands White Witch to wake him up after she says some inappropriate things. So he's got access all chained up on an Ankh, of course. And he basically tells him, he's like, I don't want to do this, but, this is my universe. If you get what you want, redividing the two universes, my amalgam universe will be gone. And I can't have that, so I have to kill you. He thinks that there's these shards of the previous two universes within him, and by killing him, he'll forever eliminate any sign of those two universes, so they can never come back. Turns out he's wrong. They're not inside of him, but Access says, well, I'm going to find them, and I'm going to bring the two universes back. And I like this how Doctor Strange, Access runs for the window. Look, we see the Doctor Strange window there. And he says, don't take my world apart. And Access jumps out the window, and he uses his power before he dies. He teleports away. And then as if that all wasn't enough, we find out he takes off his helmet, and it turns out he's Charles Xavier. And there's a whole backstory that they allude to. They talk about him being trained by Nabu. And basically, it's like the Nabu in the Ancient One. He was in the Himalayas. Nabu took him in, taught him the mystic arts. But he already was the world's greatest psychic. So, there you go, guys. Nerdgasm accomplished. And this is the fun. You could tell these guys are having fun doing this. They didn't have to do this. They could have just cashed the checks, But a lot of these have letter pages with fake letters pretending that there's this whole history to this company where guys will write in and be like, in Tales of Strange Fate number 213, blah, 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 blah. And, it's all a gag. It's all part of the gag. And some of the letter pages actually have kind of intriguing amalgamations. Someone will just offhandedly mention, next issue features this character. And you're like, there's another one. So I'm trying to see if there's, I can't remember if there's anything interesting in these, but so they really went to town on these. By the way, I just wanted to show this off. So I guess there were 12 titles. And I've only kept 6. I actually kept 7, but rereading them last night, I realized that seventh one's gotta go. It's not good. Okay, guys, this is the one that speaks to the inner 12-year-old in all of us. Legends of the Dark Claw, number 1. Written by Larry Hama, pencils by Jim Ballant, and inks by Ray McCarthy. You could probably tell. They mixed up Wolverine and Batman. And basically the two coolest characters from each company, they shot their whole wad and shoved them together to make this ultra cool character who looks very much like Faust, the 80s black and white comic. But who's quibbling about that? Who cares? So look at that. Imagine how much you'd like this comic when you were 12. And of course, his main villain is the hyena. And let me get to I actually have a page on the internet, guys, to keep all this shit straight. Let me get to my little thing here. And this is, his alter ego is Creed Quinn. Because I guess Joker once went by the name Harlan Quinn before Harley Quinn was invented. So he's this perfect blend of Sabretooth and Joker. He's basically like the Joker if the Joker was all bulked up, you know. Was a kick-ass dude. So they're fighting, and we get a little radio communication from Sparrow, Dark Claw's sidekick, who's obviously a mix of Jubilee and Robin. And pretty much also looks like, you know, the Dark Knight Robin. Dark Knight Returns Robin. And the hyena is very much like the Joker, always saying stupid jokes. And Dark Claw's very much like Batman and Wolverine. Kind of cool lines, you know, tough guy lines. There we go. Through a Glass Darkly is the title of this. And not a big fan of Jim Balin's art. I mean, it's like kind of in that, for that superhero stuff, it's pretty okay. But then he also, like, sometimes if he just has to draw a face, it's just like, that's terrible. But this looks okay for like a dopey superhero comic. It's, you know, it has the kick-ass quality that this comic requires. So they're just getting in this huge brawl. Hyena's henchmen show up, and they start firing at him, firing guns at him. So Batman escapes into his, Dark Claw escapes into his clawcopter, which Sparrow is piloting. And they hightail it out of there. So now we see this character, who's called the Huntress, looks pretty much like the DC's The Huntress, but supposedly it's an amalgamation of DC's Huntress and Carol Danvers, who later became Captain Marvel in the Marvel Universe. Started as Ms. Marvel. So she's like kind of like a top secret government agent, and she's breaking in to Logan's apartment. So in this reality, Dark Claw's alter ego, Logan, he's a fine art painter, a world-renowned fine art painter. These paintings look terrible, by the way. They're like slash marks. But then again, the art was so stupid. This might be a big thing. I don't know. And she discovers that, like, hey, what's this? Family photos? He's supposed to be an orphan. And then a picture of him with Creed, you know, a hyena, and in Southeast Asia. And then she opens a closet and she finds the Dark Claw costumes. And she's like, Logan is Dark Claw. I don't know why they didn't call him Logan Wayne or something. Oh, actually, there's another title. There's a reason why. Because they saved Bruce Wayne for something else. So he jumps in. He attacks her. And basically says, what the hell are you doing here? They share notes. And she basically tells him what she knows. How Logan and Creed were part of a Weapon X, if you will, project, even though they don't call it that. Basically, they were trying to make the perfect killing machines. Recreate the Super Soldier Project. And the problem was, though, Hyena, you know, usually weapons are inert objects that can't get up off the table and do harm by themselves. That's what Hyena was. He was a failed subject because he had a conscience, so they couldn't use him. So now he takes her down to, instead of the Batcave, it's the Barrow. So he goes down to the Barrow. Hey, there's a giant coin still, just like in the Batcave for some reason. And he tells her the whole story. His parents was shot down in front of him when he was 5 years old. He was sent to live with an uncle in Canada. He was a Mountie. Some poachers killed him, and then he was sent to an orphanage run by nuns. Signed up for the Air Force, became part of Royal Canadian Air Force Security, and that's where he met Creed. And then all of a sudden, Sparrow shows up, and she says, "What's this damaged bimbo doing in here?" And I'm pointing that out, that language, because throughout this comic, Sparrow is incredibly verbally abusive to Huntress for no good reason. It's very odd. She obviously just doesn't like her, I guess. So I didn't mention, guys, Hyena, when opening scene where Darkclaw attacks Hyena, he was in the Gotham Gazette for some reason. That, Darkclaw didn't know why. But now Sparrow, using her hacking skills, found out that he changed tomorrow's headline to this, which is Air Force One plus sodium cyanide, a deadly poison. Darkclaw uses his brilliant detective skills and says, "The president is in town. He's leaving in 20 minutes on Air Force One. Creed's attacking it with poison." Here's what I was talking about earlier, guys. Look how terrible these faces are. Like, this is such bad 70s fanzine art. Really icky. I think this is one of those guys that just grew up drawing superheroes, because that's all he read. So he didn't ever learn how to draw things that weren't superheroes. Because the superheroes look pretty cool. But when he just has to draw a human face, it looks pretty crappy. So Batman and Huntress are getting to Air Force One, getting closer. I keep saying Batman, sorry. Darkclaw gets onto Air Force One. He sneaks in. Of course, I think he's a threat at first. The Secret Service have a gun on him. They even fired him. And he's trying to warn him. He's saying, the Hyena is here. He's making an attempt on the president's life. And Hyena was hiding in the bathrooms. And he's got a gas mask on. Here, there's a Bill Clinton caricature there. It's not bad. And then he unleashes the gas bomb, the poison. So, God damn it, I keep saying Batman. So Darkclaw rips a hole in the hull of the plane, and to vent all the poison gas and to get Creed out of there. Hyena's got a parachute on. Darkclaw doesn't. But Robin in the claw-copter, whatever the hell it's called, she very deftly picks up Batman. Once again, we have a letter page, Shred 'em and Weep. That's delicious. And they also do things like in the letters, they mash up even creators, where it'll be like Stan Kirby, talking about all these like famous artists and writers, but they'll mush their names together. It's very silly. This one letter is kind of funny. It's giving Larry Hama shit. It's saying, who is this Larry Hama guy? Wasn't he the writer on Sergeant Fury and the Combat Happy Joes of Easy Company? So they mixed up three things there: Sergeant Fury, Sergeant Rock, and G.I. Joe. And this guy's totally ragging on Larry Hama. So these are really jokey letters. But to me, it just shows, like, these guys, like, we're totally having a good time. These nerds, are really nerding out. Next, we have Super Soldier. And this is obviously a delightful blend of Captain America and Superman. Great logo, perfect title. This one, is just kind of brilliant. Written by Mark Waid and penciled and inked by Dave Gibbons. And this one, Dave Gibbons wasn't doing a lot of, your average mainstream stuff, So that was kind of a coup to get him. Really nice cover, very striking. So, in 1938, a spacecraft lands in Kansas. There's a little baby inside, but he's dead. They take the cells from that baby, and they make a serum, and they inject it into this young private, and he becomes Super Soldier. He has all the powers of that baby would have had, I guess. So interesting blend of the two origin stories. So during World War II, he's assigned this photographer. For propaganda purposes, you know, the government wants documentation of this guy kicking Nazi ass. And it's James Olsen. So it's a little bit of Bucky Barnes and mostly Jimmy Olsen. They become friends. Near the end of the war, the Nazis come up with this thing called ultrametallo, which is like, Jack Kirby's sleeper that was in Captain America, and Metallo from Superman mashed up. He fought ultrametallo to a standstill, and then he fell into the icy waters of the North Atlantic, never to be seen again, supposedly. Now, James Olsen lied. He didn't, the war was still going on. He didn't want to ruin the morale. And he basically said that, the super soldier defeated ultrametallo and then retired to anonymity. Now we jump to the present. We see older James Olsen. He's captured by Hydra. They didn't even try to amalgamate Hydra in this. They're just Hydra. I thought they could have mixed him with Cobra, make him look a little bit like Cobra from DC, but they didn't even try. And it turns out their leader, the Supreme Hydra, is Lex Luthor, otherwise known as the Green Skull. So he's basically, looks this way because a meteorite landed next to that spaceship in 1938. It's obviously kryptonite. He just calls it Green K after Kansas, the Kansas lode. And he's been injecting himself with it to keep him vital. And also, he developed these things called K-bombs, which I guess are like the atom bomb in our world. And he helped win World War II for us. So everyone thinks Lex Luthor is this great hero, but he's really in charge of Hydra. And he's a no-good Nick. So James Olsen returns to the Daily Planet building. And everyone's like, oh my God, what happened to you? And we see, I don't know his alter ego name. Maybe it'll come. I think it is just Clark Kent. They didn't even try to change it. He works there. And he tells Clark, he says, Washington at 4 before he passes out. So Sharon Carter works there. I don't know why they didn't call her like Lois Carter or Sharon Lane. She's obviously supposed to be kind of like the Lois Lane character. But they name her Sharon Carter and make her look like Sharon Carter, who was Captain America's squeeze. So Clark takes off. Maybe his name is Steve Kent. I don't know. And he flies off to Washington, D.C. So since he's been resurrected, just like Captain America, very recently in the Amalgam world, Super Soldier has just come back from, being frozen in the Atlantic. In the pages of Judgment League Avengers #4, no less. So ever since he's returned, though, he's weaker than he was, and he doesn't know why. So I guess that's been a question that's been in these comics. So he goes to Washington. He sees the Washington Monument, and when the sun's at a certain point, it looks like it's 4 o'clock. So he follows the shadow, and he busts in on this underground Hydra base. Starts kicking ass. And then he confronts Lex Luthor, the Green Skull. This is Dave Gibbons is perfect for this kind of just classic superhero stuff. It's so clean. Very retro. Green Skull reveals that he found ultrametallo under the ocean, under the seas there. And it's still programmed to do its initial job. It's going to blow up Washington, D.C. Excuse me, guys. So, ultrametallo's heading right for the White House. Super Soldier's trying to stop him, but he had a hard time stopping him back in the 40s when he was at full strength. So he's not making a good show of it. And then he finally realizes something. The Ultrametallo knocks him into these lead pipes. He realizes that he doesn't feel as weak all of a sudden. And with the super brain, he figures out there must be something inside this thing that's making me weak. And it's the green K. When he rips open his chest, of course, he feels really bad now. But because of the lead pipes, he says, wait a second, I got an idea. So, actually, he doesn't have the idea quite yet. So he's getting his ass kicked by Ultrametallo. Getting his ass whomped. And it looks like it's hopeless. And that the White House, the whole Washington D.C. is going to blow up. But then Super Soldier comes back. He's got a lead pipe. And he basically pits him like an olive. And the lead is right over the kryptonite, or the green K. And he throws it away. With his super strength, who knows, 50 miles or something. Oh no, I'm sorry. He throws it right into Green Skull's laboratory. That's pretty good aim. And so Lex Luthor is captured, and everyone knows he's not the great guy everyone thought he was. Another letter page. I was trying to see if there's anything interesting in these. All these letter pages have like kind of nerdy references to other things. But we don't have that much time, do we, huh? Spider-Boy #1. This one has so many freaking references in it. And, like, these guys, and by guys, I mean Carl Kessel's the writer of this. He goes nuts with every panel. He's got, like, 3 references to amalgamated characters, some previous event in this made-up universe. It is so nerdalicious. Covered by Mike Wieringo and Carl Kessel on inks. So obviously Spider-Boy is... The Superboy at the time had this kind of leather jacket thing. So it's Spider-Man and Superboy. That's Superboy. Carl Kessel wrote it and co-inked it. Mike Wieringo penciler. Gary Martin helped ink it with Carl Kessel. So we start right off. We're in Project Cadmus, which is the Cadmus Project and Project Pegasus combined. This character named Bizarnage has gotten free. It's Bizarro and Carnage. It's so silly. And of course, Spider-Boy is just like Spider-Man in the sense that he's always cracking wise. And there's a running gag where all of the editor's notes down here, like, you know, the asterisk is like, don't tell us you missed way cool Spider-Boy. Apparently there's all these other Spider-Boy titles with, you know, adjectives before him, just like Spider-Man had around this time. He had the Sensational Spider-Man, the Amazing Spider-Man, the Spectacular Spider-Man. So, God, I wish I could spend like half an hour just telling you every little nerdy reference in here. So we're going to see these guys later in their own title. But basically, at the Project Cadmus is the Challengers of the Fantastic, which is a perfect blend of the Fantastic Four and the Challengers of the Unknown. But it's kind of almost redundant, because basically that Jack Kirby modeled the Fantastic Four after the Challengers of the Unknown. But it fits really good. So apparently there's this guy here that nobody trusts. I can't remember his name right now. This guy with the mustache. I don't know who he's an amalgamation of. But Spider-Boy finally wraps up the action here by sending Bizarnage into this containment cell, you know, whatever. So I guess Bizarnage kind of was almost injured this guy, Johnny Storm. And they think he's clutching his chest. I was like, oh no, I was just checking on my miniature Johnny Stormtrooper clone. So I have no idea what this refers to. What character in Marvel or DC had a miniature version clone of themselves. He mentions the Phantom Negative Zone. So now this guy, Ben Rocky Grimm, from the Challengers of the Fantastic, he blames Dabney Donovan, this mustachioed guy. And he says, hey, I got an alibi. I was with you guys the whole day. I didn't set Bizarnage loose. But then we see Reed, Prof. Richards, and he says, no one suspects it was actually I. But it's really not his fault, because it turns out this guy, Dabney, he's been putting evil DNA in Prof's diet and making him slowly more and more evil. Obviously, these comics just act like, this has been going on these storylines have been going on for decades, and there's all this stuff you don't quite know, And now we meet Sue Storm, Ace, who works for S.H.I.E.L.D., and she comes in with Dr. Curt Connors, who's also, every now and then, unfortunately, turns into King Lizard, just like the lizard, But it's mixed with some other guy named King, some DC character, like King Shark, I think. I don't even remember King Shark. So Spider-Boy, Dr. Curt Connors doesn't turn into King Lizard. I guess he created him. So King Lizard has escaped due to all of this huzzarai as a Spider-Boy goes off to catch him. On the way there, he has short conversations with Ray Palmer, bragging about his nanotech and shrinking things down. And then scientist Hank Pym comes out and says, the future's macro, not micro. I thought it would have been funny to combine the two, since they both were shrinking heroes, make it like Hank Palmer. Oh my God, I'm getting so nerdy just reading these. Here's another little editor's footnote. Outrageous Spider-Boy, number 305. So it turns out Dr. Otto Octavius works for Project Cadmus, and he's almost like Spider-Boy's guardian. And so he's a good guy, but he does have his arms. I don't understand why he's not mashed up with someone. He's just Dr. Ock, but he's nice. So he has his Fantastic wagon all ready to go. And so even little things like his car, it's the Fantastic car and the Whiz wagon from Forever People. Like, Carl Kessel is such a nerd, and he loves that Kirby shit, He used it all during his Superman run and Superboy stuff. So, he does mention something. He says, hey, don't forget, I want to set you up with my niece. You got a blind date. Oh, it's tonight. Sorry. Oh, it's a daughter of his friend. No relation. So then Spider-Boy has a little flashback talking about his Uncle Jen. I thought that was a little stretch there. It's General Thunderbolt Ross. So he was the one surviving witness of the original Super Soldier experiment from Super Soldier that we just read. He was trying to duplicate it. Dr. Otto Octavius was there. His young protege, Peter Parker, had a suggestion. Is something to do with clones and stuff. And unfortunately, they do mention also how Victor Von Doom worked there. There's Prof, the other guys from Project Cadmus. But Peter Parker was killed in an experiment, some mysterious power surge. And I guess a clone of him was woken up, and that's Spider-Boy. So Spider-Boy is a clone of the original Peter Parker, I guess. So basically, Uncle Jen raised him. General Thunderbolt Ross, he calls him Uncle Jen. And so he's like a half-grown human. I mean, he's a teenager, but just born. So he had to, teach him the ways of the world. And he can cling to walls. And he's got a certain amount of super strength. And so one day, some burglar killed Thunderbolt Ross. Of course, this Spider-Boy captured him, and then he became Spider-Boy. And became a superhero. He talks to his agent for a little while. I love this, just every panel. Here he mentions Cazar's Scarterus, which I thought was perfect. The Savage Land Scarterus, you know? So many nerdy things. He's got a thing called the Web Slinger, which is really just a cannon that shoots him, that fires him like a human cannonball. I'm not sure who his manager is supposed to be. His name's like Rex something. But I imagine he's Marvel and DC characters. Rex Leach, his name is. So Spider-Boy hops into action. But first, he stops in at the Daily Bugle where he works. He has a little matter transformer type thing from Project Cadmus, so he can make himself look like this at the press of a button. And his name's Pete Ross. So Pete Ross, but also Peter Parker. I don't get this. This is probably from the Superboy comic, but I imagine she's like the Lois Lane type figure. Her name's Tana Moon. And it is J. Jonah Jameson is the editor. And King Lizard has attacked. So Spider-Boy goes into action. King Lizard looks kind of goofy. Very cartoony looking. And of course the whole time he's wisecracking. I kind of like Mike Warango. Unfortunately he passed away at a very young age. He was really young. But this is like fun, goofy superhero comics. He's got a really just fun little style, you know. Then they even throw these other characters. This is the Special Crimes Unit. And it's Flash Thompson, Brooklyn Barnes, who is Bucky Barnes and that Brooklyn kid from the Newsboy Legion. It looks like Dum Dum Dugan. And I don't know who else. They do say Leech, so maybe some relation to that manager guy. So they're helping him fight King Lizard, helping Spider-Boy. Spider-Boy's got a web gun instead of his own, you know, web shooter. They even throw in a reference. I guess Brooklyn Barnes is pretty old. He was in World War II. So this other one says, yeah, you ain't a youngster like you were in the Young Commandos. So they mix up the Boy Commandos and the Young Allies. Oh, God, I'm such a nerd. This is so much fun. I wish they did this every year. Oh, so he goes back to Project Cadmus to get a weapon? Because I forgot to mention this, King Lizard, this never happened before. He's growing. And Spider-Boy doesn't know why. So he's going through all these weird things. He says, Phantom Negative Zone Projector, Invisible Force Field Belt, Mother Cube. I thought that was great. Mother Box, Cosmic Cube. And finally, he remembers what Ray Palmer was talking about earlier, the White Dwarf prototype. So King Lizard's been following him. He attacks him. And he sets off the White Dwarf prototype. Actually, he throws it right into his mouth. That's a crazy panel right there. I kind of like it. And he starts shrinking. In fact, he starts shrinking so much, he goes into the subatomic universe, which is already implied as like the microverse here. There's a whole universe down there. And he mentions Shatterstar Fire. He already mentioned this earlier. Shatterstar and Starfire, the Tamojorans. Oh, God, it's so dorky. They're just smashing up everything. And so finally, everything's okay. Spider-Boy saved the day. Otto Octavius shows up and says, Peter, I'm sorry, not Peter, Spider-Boy, is like, don't forget, it's your blind date. I want to introduce you to Mary Jane Watson, also known as the Insect Queen. Face it, Spider, you just hit the jackpot. Oh my God, how many nerdy references can you pack into a comic? And the letter page has even more. Oh my God, talking about how there's a Daily Bugle columnist, Jack Ryder, also known as the Night Creeper, Nightcrawler and the Creeper. Dr. Doomsday. Oh my God, so much. I'm trying to see if there's anything else here. Screw it. I guess next issue, which never appears, at least this one, the Magnetic Men appear, which I got rid of that comic, but it's Magneto has basically formed a robotic X-Men type group. So here we got Assassins. This is a crazy one. This is Dan Chichester, writer, Scott McDaniel pencils, and Derek Fisher inks. Now, Dan Chichester and Scott McDaniel at this point had just come off their kind of renowned run on Daredevil. The Fall from Grace storyline was, I guess, their big one. So they were a team, and even though this one was made by DC, they got that team to do this comic. Now, this features, they do the cover as well, McDaniel and Fisher. So this is Cat's Eye, spelled S-A-I, who's Catwoman and Elektra. And this is Dare the Terminator, who is Deathstroke and Daredevil. I know it sounds dumb. Excuse me, guys. I'm still sick. I know it sounds dumb, but I gotta say, I would have bought this comic every month as a kid. So, here we see them. Dare and Cat's Eye are back in town. They're in the midst of killing Deadeye. It's Bullseye and Deadshot. And I love how Cat's Eye is killing him, just like how Bullseye ran through Elektra. And she says, I don't know why, but this just feels right. So it turns out these two characters are in the mayor's tower, this giant gleaming skyscraper here. And, it's like the mayor's mansion, but it's a big skyscraper. And they're going to kill the mayor. And they have to go up floor by floor and fight all of his assassins and hired guns. So Bullseye was the 12th. So this is just like it starts in the middle of the story. They've already killed off or fought 11 assassins. It's called Arkham Tower. So supposedly they built this tower, this government building, over Arkham Asylum. Doesn't really make sense. So here we see the mayor. His name is Enigma Fisk, otherwise known as the Big Question. So he's got the bulk of Wilson Fisk, but he's got a big question mark on his face, which you can't really see yet. But also, he looks like Tobias Whale from the early Black Lightning comics. And then he's called the Big Question. So it's just this one mashes up 3 times, 4 times. It's nuts. And D.G. Chichester does something kind of clever in the dialogue, where he'll make references to their real characters. So she's called Dare the Terminator, but someone will say at one point, or the caption will say, a real Daredevil or something like that, So now the 13th assassin shows up, Lethal, who is Kraven the Hunter mixed with Cheetah. And kind of a silly face there. But I kind of like Scott McDaniel's pencils. They're kind of fun. They're kind of loose, kind of a little bit expressive. So now we get a cool kick-ass fight. And of course, they're the heroes, so they win against Feral. Wait, is that it? Lethal. Now we see Jimmy Urich on TV. Jimmy Olsen and Ben Urich combined. He's critical of Mayor Question. And the mayor does not like this. So apparently, in this reality, he was a criminal who somehow became mayor. I guess that's not that hard to believe, is it? It's not really a fantasy anymore. So then, because this is built on Arkham Asylum, all these lunatics from Arkham Asylum come out and attack our two heroes. They kick their asses. They keep climbing up this elevator shaft to get to Enigma Fisk. They have a flashback. So Cat's Eye keeps kind of ribbing Dare, saying, You're making this personal. You know, he's the guy who took your eye. And we see a flashback when once the big question had her in his custody and he basically tore her eye out, even though she was blind. But I guess it's still pretty painful. There's that big goofy question mark on his face here. But Dare assures her, nope, this is just another job. So they're mercenaries. Now we get at number 14 here. We got Nathan Chase, known better as Wired. I don't know where they came up with that name, because it's Manhunter and Cable. And this is what he says in the caption box. A manhunter built out of flesh and machine, strung together with cybernetic cable. None of the other writers kind of did that, but I thought that was kind of fun how he worked everything in. That's also a pretty cool costume design with those massive shoulder things, but that's kind of taken from Manhunter. Manhunter had one of the best superhero character designs ever. So they kick his ass too. And they finally confront the big bad guy. And so I guess when he ripped her eye out, it was part of some kind of operation or something. He put these little horns in her head. That was just weird. And now he rips them out. And it looks like Dare might be dying. And he also does mention that, all that blood and bone and yellow oily goo. I don't know why yellow oily goo would come out of her, so maybe something else is different with her. And so now, Cat's Eye has one of her... So Cat's Eye is, half Catwoman. She has all these cats who kind of work for her. And this cat brings in a bomb and runs away. It blows up... blows the shit out of the big question. But he's a tough guy. He's still alive. And so now we get another big fight scene. And then, because she's half Electra, she has two sides. And she pulls him out. And she kills the big question. And then they truss him up for the police to find. Well, first they actually call Jimmy Urich, and he gets a big exclusive. No question, finished. And as this issue ends, as far as we know, Dare's dead. Of course, it's a comic book, so she probably won't be. And Cat's Eye's on her own. So even the letter page is like, this is a really clever letter page column title. Last Rites. I've never seen that before. So they go to all this extra work. They could have just written like Letters to the Assassins. It's just kind of amazing how these guys really got into this. And I have a feeling this was a time when there wasn't a lot of fun to be had at Marvel and DC. They were all, Bob Harris was in charge of Marvel, just saying, hey, do things that make money. And the fanboys were kind of like getting edged out. But yeah, there's so many nerdy things in here too. Apparently there was Dare was forced to kill Jerica back in Mutant Titans number 83. Oh my God. And I got one more, guys. This one just made the cut because I like the art a lot. Bruce Wayne, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. I know it sounds ridiculous. It kind of is. But it has art by Cary Nord. And I really like this guy, Cary Nord. I know he's changed his style a lot. He ended up doing Conan at Dark Horse a while back. But this is some pretty nice looking stuff. So this is written by Chuck Dixon, penciled by Cary Nord, inked by Mark Pennington. That could be why this looks so good too. Mark Pennington's a good inker. And so this is almost a continuation of Super Soldier. Mission, destroy Hydra. So we see Lex Luthor and, and all his Hydra guys. For some reason, they're all wearing red now. And basically, once again, Lex Luthor has failed to kill Bruce Wayne, who's in charge of S.H.I.E.L.D. in this universe. His daughter, whose name's Madam Cat, her real name is Selena Luthor, she actually kills her own father. She says, basically, I'm replacing you. From now on, I'll be the Supreme Hydra. Hydra. I'll tell you who these guys are later. So she, in cold blood, kills her own father. And tired of his failures. And now she will be the Supreme Hydra. Man, Carrie Nord knows how to draw a woman. That looks so much like my ex. It's scary. Or, I don't know if scary is the word. So now we see Nick Fury. So in this, Nick Fury is basically retired as head of S.H.I.E.L.D. He's still, kind of hanging out with them. But Bruce Wayne has taken over. He's talking to Tony Stark here, who's not Iron Man. And it says on the little wiki page I found that it's just supposed to be Tony Stark, but it does look like he has Metron's chair because he's crippled in this universe. And then, let me find the page here. Oh, guys, I forgot to mention, sorry. I did want to mention in the Assassins, there's the editor of the newspaper is named J. Jonah White, and Dare was trained by Winterstick, who's a mix of Wintergreen from Deathstroke and Stick from, Daredevil and Elektra. And, okay, I guess that's all I missed. Oh, and for some reason, Jericho is supposed to be Jericho and Karma. I don't know why. Okay, let me find the other ones, guys. So I gotta find Bruce Wayne. Sorry about this. So now we're introduced to the Black Bat. And this is Barbara Hardy, who's an amalgamation of Batgirl and Black Cat. And this is Bruce Wayne's main squeeze in this world. So Nick Fury has a little flashback saying that damn Bruce Wayne, he doesn't listen. I remember when he was just a young pup. And there's a flashback. Apparently his parents were spies. They were killed in front of his eyes when he was a young boy. Just like Batman. Well, just like Bruce Wayne. He joined S.H.I.E.L.D., became Nick Fury's right-hand man, quickly rose up through the ranks, and took over S.H.I.E.L.D. But Nick Fury's worried that he's treating S.H.I.E.L.D. as just his personal revenge machine to get revenge on Hydra because they killed his parents. Then I love this, how basically Nick Fury's hanging out with Frank Rock and from Sergeant Rock. But he's calling him Joe, though. So maybe they were even trying to mix in a little G.I. Joe? I don't know. I don't know why they just didn't call him Nick Rock and, Frank Fury. It was just, it would have been an easy one. God, I'm really getting too nerdy, guys. I gotta stop this video soon. So, now we're introduced to Moonwing, who is Moon Knight and Nightwing. But for some reason, he's just called Dick Grayson. I don't know why he's not called Dick Spector. And you're all wondering, why are you even wondering that? You fucking nerd. Sorry, I can't help it. Now we cut back to the Supreme Hydra. And so this character is Baron Zero, who's a mix of Mr. Freeze and Baron Strucker. But some of this art is just so nice. I really like Harry Nord's art. So now the Bruce Wayne and the agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. are attacking. There's Moonwing. There's Black Bat. And now Hydra, this Hydra agent, his name is, shit, what the hell's his name? We'll find out soon enough. I think they call him Deathlock in this. So he's a mix of Deathlock, Midnight, the Moon Knight villain, but his backstory is Jason Todd. Jason Todd used to wear the Moonwing costume while Dick Grayson was in college, just like Jason Todd became Robin when Dick Grayson was away, got older. So kind of a weird amalgamation there. Dick Grayson tries to reason with him, but he's too far gone. He's full-on evil Hydra now. And now we meet... Shit, what is his name again? I think his name is Bane. So this is a mix of Bane and Nuke. Oh no, his name is Nuke. His name is Bane Simpson, though. That's his alter ego. So that's a kind of an interesting mashup, because both of those characters, those villains, use drugs to augment their powers. So it's Bane and Nuke, even though it just looks like Bane pretty much with a Hydra tattoo. And he's having a big showdown with Bruce Wayne. Deathlock is about to kill Moonwing. He gets strafed by a shield craft. It's not just any shield craft. It's piloted by Nick Fury and Sergeant Rock. So it looks like Nuke has knocked out Bruce, is kicking Bruce Wayne's ass. I like how Carrie Nord sometimes will just let things go rough, and it works somehow. And it almost does seem like it's when things are action packed, like things are going fast. So, you don't want to slow down and look at the well detailed drawings, So Bruce Wayne gets the upper hand by pulling one of those drug tubes off of Nuke. So then it turns out that before Green Skull died, he had this thing called the Planet Smasher, which is basically a giant cannon that would shoot into the Earth's crust, and it would basically dislodge the whole, half a continent, destroy the whole world probably. And Supreme Hydra is going to activate it. Of course, the other Hydra agents are running it's the end of the world. And she's just shooting after them. This is almost Dave Stevens' quality of woman, Dave Stevens' a better artist, slicker, but just the way he captures the physical architecture of a beautiful woman reminds me of that. So they break in. They're shooting at Baron Zero. And then they subdue Supreme Hydra, but she's like, it's too late. I've won. The Planet Smasher will end everything. And as Nick Fury and Sergeant Rock fly over, they see a giant explosion. And as if that wasn't enough of a cliffhanger, we see some little bunker, and the Green Skull is still alive. So who knows what will happen next, because we'll never find out. So I want to see where I'm at in the time here. I think I have time enough just to show. This is the one comic that I'm booting out after last night. I booted out the other 5 years ago. I just want to show this off. It's a pretty annoyingly crappy comic, but the design is pretty fucking cool. Obviously, Speed Demon, it's Ghost Rider and the Flash. So all the designs of these characters look pretty fucking cool. Oh, he's also so it's the Etrigan and the Demon too. So it's Ghost Rider, Etrigan, and the Flash. Pretty goofy, but it's getting kicked out of the Academy. No more for that one. So I'm going to keep these 6 of the original Amalgam run. So guys, this is the first of 2 parts. The next video I make, it's going to be year 2. So I'm pretty sure a year later they did the same thing. These sold well enough. They stopped publishing their books for that month, Marvel and DC. And they did another 12 amalgams. And some of them are pretty damn good. So that's what we're going to look at next time. Thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for bearing with my nerdgasms. And I hope to see you next time here at the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.